The afternoon sunlight poured softly through the tall glass windows of their Los Angeles home, casting long golden patterns across the hardwood floor. The house was unusually quiet, no meetings, no scripts, no rushing schedules. It was one of those rare, peaceful days Keanu cherished. He sat comfortably on the couch with a book resting open in his hands, though his eyes had drifted away from the pages. Across the room, his wife arranged fresh white lil in a ceramic vase, humming gently to herself. A sudden knock at the door broke the calm. Keanu glanced toward the hallway, slightly puzzled. They weren't expecting anyone. When he opened the door, a courier stood waiting, holding a single envelope. It wasn't ordinary mail. The envelope was thick, ivory-colored, and sealed with deep golden wax pressed with an intricate emblem. "For you," the courier said politely before leaving. Keanu turned the envelope over in his hands. His name was written in elegant calligraphy. There was something timeless about it, something intentional. His wife stepped closer, curiosity sparkling in her eyes. "Well, that looks important," she said softly. He smiled faintly and broke the wax seal. Inside was a beautifully crafted invitation, the paper textured and luxurious. At the top, in graceful lettering, were the words, "With love and honor, we invite you to celebrate our wedding on the island of Santorini, Greece." Keanu's expression shifted, first surprise, then recognition. The groom's name stirred memories long tucked away. It was an old friend from years ago, someone he had worked with early in his career while filming overseas. They had shared long conversations about dreams, art, and life under European skies. Over time, distance and schedules had pulled them apart. And now, this, Greece, Santorini, a wedding by the Aegean Sea. His wife watched the subtle emotion in his face. "You know him well," she observed gently. Keanu nodded. "We were different back then, still figuring things out." He believed in love like it was destiny. The words lingered in the air between them. For a moment, the room felt smaller, not in space, but in time. The past and present seemed to fold together. The idea of returning to Europe, not for work but for celebration, stirred something deeper than travel excitement. It felt symbolic, a reminder that life wasn't only about moving forward. Sometimes it was about reconnecting with where you began. His wife reached for his hand. "We should go." He looked at her, seeing not just the suggestion, but the adventure behind it. A wedding under Mediterranean skies, old friendships rekindled, new memories waiting to be written. A slow smile spread across his face. "Yeah," he said quietly, "we should." Outside, the sun dipped lower, bathing the room in amber light. The golden envelope rested on the table between them, no longer just paper and wax, but a doorway. And somewhere far away, beyond oceans and continents, the island of Santorini waited. Plane descended slowly over the deep blue expanse of the Aegean Sea, sunlight dancing across the water like scattered diamonds. From the window, the island of Santorini appeared almost unreal, whitewashed, buildings clinging to dramatic cliffs, crowned with blue domes that mirrored the sky itself. Keanu felt a quiet stillness settle over him as the island came into view. Beside him, his wife leaned closer to the window, her eyes bright with wonder. "It looks like a painting," she whispered. "It feels like one too," he replied softly. When they stepped off the plane, warm Mediterranean air wrapped around them like an embrace. It carried the scent of salt, blooming bougainvillea, and distant sea breeze. The atmosphere was slower here and hurried, sun-soaked, timeless. A private driver escorted them along winding cliffside roads. Each turn revealed breathtaking views, endless blue waters, terraces carved into volcanic rock, white buildings glowing against the sky. The architecture felt ancient yet alive, as though the island held centuries of stories within its walls. Their hotel overlooked the caldera, perched high above the sea. From the balcony, the view stretched infinitely, water meeting horizon, sailboats drifting lazily below. The light was different here, softer yet more vibrant, casting everything in a golden clarity. For a brief moment, Keanu simply stood there, absorbing it all. Fame, schedules, interviews, none of it felt present. Just the sound of wind brushing against stone and the distant hum of life below. Word of their arrival quietly spread through the town, but unlike the frenzy of large cities, the locals maintained a respectful distance. A few warm smiles, a nod of recognition, nothing more. It was appreciation without intrusion, admiration without chaos. Keanu acknowledged them with the same humility he was known for, offering gentle waves and gratitude. That evening, they made their way to a pre-wedding gathering hosted at a cliffside terrace. Strings of lights hung above long wooden tables adorned with olive branches and candles. Laughter floated through the air as old friends reunited. The groom spotted Keanu first, For a second, neither moved. Then the years dissolved. They embraced tightly, no cameras, no spotlight, just genuine connection. Time had matured them both, but the familiarity remained. Yet as the evening unfolded, Keanu sensed subtle tension woven beneath the celebration. The groom laughed, but sometimes too quickly. The bride smiled, but her fingers nervously twisted her ring. The beauty of Santorini was undeniable, perfect, cinematic, almost divine. But paradise, Keanu knew, did not erase human doubts. As the last light of day slipped below the horizon and the sea darkened into midnight blue, he couldn't shake the feeling that this wedding would be more than a ceremony. It would be a turning point, and perhaps, before vows were spoken under the Greek sun, truths would need to surface beneath the stars. The island grew quieter as the night deepened. The lively laughter from the terrace faded into distant echoes, replaced by the gentle rhythm of waves brushing against volcanic rock far below the cliffs. A silver moon hung above the Aegean Sea, casting a shimmering path across the dark water. Keanu stepped away from the celebration, sensing something unresolved in the air. He found the groom standing alone near the edge of the cliffside walkway, hands resting against the stone railing, eyes fixed on the horizon. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable, it was honest. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Keanu said quietly, glancing toward the moonlit sea. "Yeah," the groom replied, but his voice carried weight. "Too beautiful, maybe." Keanu turned slightly, studying his old friend. The confident energy he had shown earlier seemed thinner now, fragile beneath the surface. "You okay?" Keanu asked gently. The groom exhaled slowly. "Everyone thinks this is the happiest moment of my life, and it should be." He hesitated. "But what if I'm not ready? What if I disappoint her? What if I change?" The questions weren't dramatic, they were human, honest, fear disguised as responsibility. Keanu leaned against the railing beside him, eyes returning to the sea. "You know," he began thoughtfully, "love isn't about being fearless. It's about choosing someone even when you are afraid." The groom stayed silent, listening. "I used to think commitment meant having all the answers," Keanu continued, "but it doesn't. It means deciding to figure things out together, every day." The wind picked up slightly, rustling the olive trees behind them. Somewhere in the distance, church bells chimed faintly. "My family expects perfection," the groom admitted. "They want this wedding to prove something. Stability, legacy." He shook his head. "But marriage isn't a performance." "No," Keanu agreed softly. "It's a partnership." Meanwhile, on another quiet terrace, Keanu's wife sat beside the bride. The bride's wedding dress hung nearby in a garment bag, glowing faintly in the moonlight. Keanu met his gaze directly. "Then you get back up, together. That's the promise." The simplicity of the words seemed to steady him. They stood there for a while longer, watching the quiet sea. No grand speeches, no dramatic declarations, just perspective shared between two men who understood that life's most important moments rarely come without doubt. Eventually, the groom straightened his shoulders, not because the fear was gone but because it no longer controlled him. "Thank you," he said sincerely. Keanu gave a small nod. Tomorrow isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. As they walked back toward the glowing terrace lights, the tension that had lingered throughout the evening felt lighter, like clouds slowly clearing from the sky. Above them, the stars stretched endlessly across the Greek night, and for the first time since arriving, peace settled over the island. Morning arrived gently over Santorini, the first light of dawn spilling across the whitewashed cliffs like liquid gold. The Aegean Sea shimmered below, calm and endless, as if it too were waiting for the day to unfold. The island felt alive. Church bells echoed softly through the narrow stone streets. Bougainvillea petals lined the pathways in bursts of pink and crimson. Guests began gathering at the cliffside venue, dressed in elegant linen and flowing summer fabrics that caught the warm breeze. The ceremony space was breathtaking. A floral arch of white roses and olive branches stood at the very edge of the caldera. Beyond it stretched the infinite blue of the sea, blending seamlessly into the sky. Rows of wooden chairs faced the arch, and delicate white petals were placed on each seat. Keanu and his wife arrived quietly, blending into the gathering crowd. He wore a tailored dark suit, simple and classic. She wore a soft ivory dress that moved gracefully in the sunlight. There were no flashing cameras, no loud attention, just shared smiles and nods from fellow guests. The groom stood near the arch, adjusting his cuffs. He looked composed now, calmer than the night before. When his eyes briefly met Keanu's across the aisle, there was gratitude there, steady and unspoken. Music began, traditional Greek instruments blending with soft strings. The sound carried across the cliffs, mingling with the wind, building a life rooted in trust. The sea stretched endlessly behind them, ancient and patient as silent, witness to generations of vows, spoken beneath the same sky. Just as the vows were about to begin, a small disruption stirred among the guests. A relative from the groom's side whispered sharply, questioning a family tradition that had been altered for the ceremony. A ripple of tension moved through the front row. The groom's jaw tightened slightly. For a split second, it felt as though old expectations might rise again, threatening the peace they had found the night before. Keanu shifted subtly in his seat, meeting the relative's gaze, not confrontational, but calm. He offered a respectful nod, a quiet gesture that seemed to say, "Let them have their moment." The simplicity of it was enough. The relative exhaled and sat back. The ceremony continued. The groom spoke first, his voice steady. "I don't promise perfection. I promise presence. I promise to choose you every day, even when the world feels uncertain." The bride's eyes filled with tears. "And I promise to stand beside you, not to complete you, but to walk with you." The wind lifted gently as they exchanged rings. When the officiant declared them married, applause erupted across the cliffs. Bells rang again in celebration. Petals were tossed into the air, catching sunlight like fragments of joy. Keanu felt his wife's hand slip into his. They watched the newlyweds kiss beneath the bright Mediterranean sky. The doubts had dissolved, and under the vast, endless blue of the Aegean, love had chosen courage. The sun dipped slowly toward the horizon. Santorini transformed once more. The white buildings turned shades of rose and amber, reflecting the final warmth of the day. Lanterns were lit along the terrace, casting a soft golden glow over long banquet tables decorated with olive branches, candles, and crystal glasses that shimmered in the fading light. The reception began with music. Lively Greek melodies played on bouzouki and violin. Laughter flowed as freely as the wine. Plates of fresh seafood, warm bread, and local delicacies filled the air with rich aromas. The earlier tension felt like a distant memory, replaced by celebration and relief. The bride and groom entered to cheers, their hands tightly clasped. The groom looked lighter now, as if a quiet burden had been lifted from his shoulders. The bride radiated calm joy. They weren't just smiling, they were grounded. Soon, the dancing began. Guests formed a circle, traditional Greek steps echoing against the stone terrace. The rhythm was infectious. Even those unfamiliar with the movements joined in, laughing as they tried to keep pace. The sea below reflected the rising moon, dark and endless, cradling the island in silver light. Keanu stood for a moment at the edge of the celebration, observing. There was something beautiful about watching love surrounded by community, about seeing two people supported, not judged. His wife approached, her eyes shining in the lantern light. "Are you just going to watch?" she teased gently. He smiled. "I was thinking about how lucky we are." She reached for his hand. "Then let's celebrate that." They stepped onto the dance floor together. The music softened into something slower, romantic and melodic. Lantern light flickered against their faces as they moved in quiet rhythm, not performing, not posing, just existing in the moment. Around them, conversations rose and fell like waves. Glasses clinked. The fireworks were loud, dazzling, fleeting. But what he felt in that moment was quiet and steady. He thought about the golden envelope back in Los Angeles, the unexpected invitation, a simple gesture that had carried them across continents, back into friendship, into perspective. Sometimes life's most meaningful journeys weren't planned. They arrived sealed in wax, asking only one thing: will you show up? The final firework blossomed across the sky like a star being born, then faded into smoke. Applause echoed over the terrace. As the night stretched on and the music resumed, Keanu and his wife stepped aside to the edge of the cliff once more. The sea lay calm beneath the starlit sky. Tomorrow, they would return to their world of schedules and responsibilities. But tonight, beneath the Greek sky, they simply stood together, grateful, present, and certain that love, like the Aegean Sea, was vast enough to hold both doubt and devotion. And as the first hint of dawn quietly touched the horizon, the island of Santorini held one more love story within its ancient embrace.